Hi everyone. So this video is all about brows. It started out as a brow pen kind of roundup, and then I decided I could talk about brow pencils as well. Having very fair skin, a lot of times eyebrow products go pretty orangey on me. I have a very particular kind of sweaty eyebrow situation that I'm also contending with. So I just have a lot of thoughts about eyebrows. My eyebrow hairs are particularly droopy, and I also have to dye them because they are quite light. Some of them are like completely see-through blonde, and some of them are kind of an ashy, cool blonde, so they're just not very visible, and I'm in need of another eyebrow dyeing because it's definitely grown out and they're kind of fading into my forehead as we speak. So things I'm looking for in a brow product: I want it to be waterproof if possible, or water resistant. I also want it to be a cool brown that is medium, at least medium depth. I feel like it's a little confusing to buy things. Some things that are medium are pretty light. Some things that are medium are pretty dark. Some things that say they're ash are actually kind of warm. So hopefully this will be helpful. So the first thing I think that is most interesting, because it's not a new style product. There have been, I think Suku was one of the first, along with Stila, to have this kind of pen format that is not a felt tip, it's a brush tip. And I do have the Stila. I don't have the Suku because it would be very expensive. And for a while, I don't think it was really impossible to order it from the US. You can now, from what I recall, but there's just not a lot of need now because there's so many more options available. So before I talk too much about the pens, let's take a look at the swatches and you'll see what the colors look like, as well as the pencils. See how they all compare. Got the Stila waterproof brow pen in medium, the Ardell Stroke Brow in medium brown, MAC Shape and Shade Brow Tint in spiked, and LimeCrime Bushy Brow in Brownie. You can see the undertones a little bit better. I have them swatched down here. So this is the Stila, Ardell, MAC, and LimeCrime. And this is also the powder from the Spiked Shape and Shade by MAC. Probably my favorite pencil color right now is the Colourpop Precision Brow Pencil in Taken for Granite. Here's the L'Oreal Brow Stylist Definer in Dark Brunette, which is very, very cool toned. It's almost like a blackish gray. This is Colourpop Brow Boss, their other formula, in dark brown, which is a little bit warmer than I like. NYX Microbrow in ash brown, which is much warmer than the other things I have on here. Hourglass Arch Pencil in ash, which is since I've had it, which has been an extremely long time, one I kind of go back and forth with. I enjoy it. It's just a little less precise. And this is a old YouTube cult favorite, Uemura hard number 9 seal brown. And the only way I could get that one to swatch is to put a primer down. That one really only works over some sort of product, or if you've got some like oils in your brows. So yeah, of the things here that are waterproof, the Stila says it's waterproof, but I don't find it to be terribly waterproof. The MAC and the Ardell really hold up well to water, and the LimeCrime washes away underwater instantly. It does not claim to be waterproof, and it's definitely not waterproof. And of these pencils, I think the only thing that I've heard that is waterproof, though it doesn't say it on the website, is the Colourpop Precision Brow Pencil, and this is a lot softer of a formula. All right, so the Stila, not good for individual brow hairs just because it is quite a bit lighter. I think if you're very careful with how you draw them in, you could get little brow hairs out of it, but definitely more suited to blonde hair than medium brown hair, in my in my opinion, at least for what I like on my brows, which is a little bit darker. Next in depth would be the Ardell Stroke-A-Brow. This is something that I learned about through Katie Jane Hughes. I think that's where a lot of people have learned about this. And it's called a feathering pen. It's really similar, I think, in shape to the MAC Shake and Shade. They both have pretty long brush tips. And it is very much water resistant. I had these swatched on my hands, and the MAC and the Ardell really held up well through many hand washings. I wasn't like scrubbing with soap, obviously, but just like lots of water going over like this part of my hand, and they did not come off. The LimeCrime doesn't claim to be waterproof, and it isn't. You know, if it gets wet, it just runs really quickly. So I have a sweaty eyebrow problem, so that doesn't work for me. The color on this also is a little bit more red toned. I feel like it just depends what I'm wearing, whether or not this looks more reddish or not. So it's something I can wear, but there is definitely a contrast between the brow hairs being quite cool, ashy, darker brown, and this being a little bit more of a reddish brown. And as you'll see in the demo, I think this one does put in very nice fine strokes. I feel like if it were waterproof, I would be potentially interested in trying a different color. I think they have one that's darker than this that maybe isn't as reddish. I don't know. I haven't seen comparison swatches, but I feel like if you don't have issues with moisture, this is definitely one that's worth checking out because it is very nice, except for the problem I have with sweatiness. I don't know if you'll be able to see. It's mostly a winter thing, actually, that my eyebrows are sweaty. All I can guess is that there's some sort of weird sweat gland problem, because when I'm kind of cold and clammy, right here, especially on this eyebrow, is just like beating in sweat 24/7. So that makes it difficult to keep eyebrow products on. Oh my gosh, this cat is trying to open the door with a knob. Ardell Ardell Stroke-A-Brow is a good color, a good depth. I feel like this actually matches the brow dye that I use, which is RefectoCil Natural Brown number 3, and I keep that on my brows for about 4 to 5 minutes. This really goes well with it. So this can give me a pretty seamless match to the brow hairs. I feel like I can get really nice individual strokes. The only issue that I have with this one is that it tends to get a little clogged up with makeup. So this doesn't go over makeup well at all. It's really actually quite bad at going over makeup. So I'm constantly like wiping it off my hand, trying to get the stuff flowing again, and then going in and wiping it off. Very tedious. So this one I feel like I really do need to put on before I have any sort of concealer, foundation, anything like that on, in order to get this one to work. But the color and the applicator are very nice. You definitely can get those individual brow strokes, as you can see in the demo, as long as there is no makeup clogging it up. And the last up, this is the darkest of the shades I have. It's from MAC. It's the Shape and Shade Brow Tint, and this one's in Spiked. So I find like sometimes with some bases, this can look a little bit warm and orangey. But when I've been wearing it the past several days, I feel like it has looked very nice. They do have a new color. I think it's new. I'm quite sure they did not have this before. A new color in this line, Stud, which is a color they have in their other eyebrow product lines, and it is a deep, much cooler brown. So if you need something that's definitely cooler than this, there is an option, which I'm really happy to hear. This one has a little bit of a greenish undertone, which the Suku pen was actually like moss green or something. It also, I think, just had kind of a subtle green undertone to it. And so generally that is something that works well if you need a cool brown brow product. Though I just find, you know, having super pale skin, sometimes things just go a little bit funny on that really light base. But lately this has been working for me. The powder that's on the end of this is a cooler brown, as you saw in the swatches. This one, it seems to depend the base that you're going over, whether or not it works over makeup or not. When I've tried this over like some sort of matte foundation, it's not like I have a ton of foundation and concealer in my eyebrows, but inevitably when I put my base on, a little bit gets up in there, and it's just enough to mess with these brow pens. And this one, like a matte foundation, it will get all gunked up. I wore it over MAC Face and Body yesterday. No problems at all. It applied over face and body, no issues. So I'm not really sure what that's about. But I feel like I can get very nice defined brow strokes with this one. This and the LimeCrime just seem to be a little bit juicier than the other ones. And I've really come around to this. I thought I was going to exchange it for stud, but I think I'm going to keep this because I feel like it's working for me. And sometimes it works over foundations, which the other ones don't. So as far as brow pencils go, my current favorite, I mentioned in the swatches, is the Precision Brow from Colourpop. They do have two different brow formulas, though I feel like maybe these got combined. I'm not really sure. Precision Brow Pencil is the one that does not retract. It looks a little bit like the Maybelline Define-A-Brow, and also MAC has a pencil that's, I feel like, the same kind of format. Doesn't retract, is a softer formula, but does seem to be water resistant. And the Brow Boss, what the hair is getting all tangled up in my eyelashes. Brow Boss is not water resistant, but it is retractable and it is a harder formula. So I think that when I think about recommending one of these, I usually would lean towards the Brow Boss just because it's easier to use. The only downside with this one is that this happens. This also happens with my L'Oreal Brow Stylist plumper. No, definer. These pencils. That the cap doesn't come off, they actually come apart. It drives me batty. So other than that packaging issue, I do think this Brow Boss probably would suit more people than this one, just because this I feel like is a little bit harder to use. It's more of the style where it's soft enough that you kind of brush it through and it just blurs out a little bit. So if you're so careful, you can get little individual strokes, but it's tricky because it's so soft, but it holds up to the sweatiness issue pretty well, and it only fades a little bit throughout the day, I would say. It's not like it will, some pencils will fade and some pencils will actually like start running down my face and then kind of stop wherever the sweatiness stops and leave like a little bit of a dark line. It's not a good look. So I think that's it for my brow product roundup, I guess. Oh, I do want to mention brow gels quickly. I've tried a lot of tinted brow gels just because my brows are naturally blonde, that in between dyeing my brows, it can be easier to use a tinted brow product just so that the hairs have some dimension. But honestly, this is the best brow gel for me. I have very limp, saggy eyebrows. If you look on Instagram and you go through and look when I'm facing like this, which is most of the time, you'll notice the tail of my eyebrows are almost always below the line of my eyebrow product because my eyebrow hairs this cat. The eyebrow hairs are just very saggy, and like 99% of all brow products I've tried do not have enough hold. This is the one thing that will actually keep my brows in place 8+ hours, and that's amazing. So this is a very old tube. I had lost it and only recently rediscovered it, and was so thankful because now my brows are actually staying where I put them. So I am most likely going to repurchase this soon because I don't have much left because it's quite old and I've used it for a very long time. So that's all I have to say about brow gels. I can do a tinted brow gel roundup if you want at some point. Let me know. It's just none of them really have enough hold for me, so that's why in my mind they're somewhat interchangeable. There are a couple that are water resistant as well, so if that's a problem that you are also experiencing, then I have that information for you. So yeah, I think that's it. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video today. Let me know if you have any questions or comments below. I always love hearing from you guys. If you want to see more videos from me, please do subscribe and hit the bell if you want a notification when I upload a video. And I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon.
In the 2018 magazine, it wasn't discontinued, but in the 2019 magazine, it was discontinued.
Oh, yeah.
So they probably don't make it anymore now.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
I saw a Genesis D70 80 or 90.
Oh, yeah?
I'm going to show you what your Genesis D70, 80, and 90 look like, and remember, they're all colors.
Okay.